Another decision that we often have to make is whether to make or buy things. So, whether to outsource some of our materials and products. Are we going to produce a certain part required in the assembly of our finished products, or do we buy those parts from outside suppliers? So, we have to look at what are our available resources, how much does it cost us to produce that part, and how much can we buy it from an outside supplier? So in this example, we have a part that we can buy for $5 per unit. It costs us $6 per unit to produce. So it seems obvious that we would say it's a dollar less from the outsourcing company. So why wouldn't we buy it from them and save a dollar per unit to produce it? Again, we have to look at the relevant costs for this decision. So when we break it down into the relevant costs, we have our decision to make the part or our decision to buy the part, and then the incremental analysis. So if we make the part, we have direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, and fixed overhead. If we buy the part, we would be able to save all of the direct materials and direct labor, but we would still have some of the variable overhead costs and a significant portion of the fixed overhead costs. Therefore, and we would have to purchase the part for $5 per unit. So we're paying the fixed costs still, and then paying additional money to purchase the part. So we can see here that even though this part costs a dollar less, because we have what are called unavoidable fixed overhead costs, we would actually lose money, $18,000 in this incremental analysis, if we bought the part from an outside vendor. We also have to think about non-financial things when we're looking at make or buy decisions. So some of the non-financial decisions are, what are the opportunity costs associated with a make or buy decision? One, if we buy it from an outside vendor, we no longer have strict control on that product quality. We're not making it ourselves, so we don't get the say in how it is made. We also don't know if we can control the availability of it. We're making it in-house, so we know when it's already available to us. If we go with an outsourcing, decide to buy it, can they always supply it to us exactly when we need it? Or are we going to start to have problems with production because we can't get it to us? Other opportunity costs that we want to think about are, what can we do with that capacity and factory space if we're not making the product? Could we make something else that brings in more money that would offset that 18,000 in losses of buying the product? This next decision is whether to sell, scrap, or rebuild. So when we just have issues in production, in this example, we have laptop computers that are obsolete. They have obsolete processors. We have 500 of them in our inventory. We have to decide what we can do with them. We can sell them as is for less money than it costs to make them. We can sell them to surrounding school districts for using computer labs, or we can scrap the existing processor in each machine and replace it with a non-obsolete processor. And then we could sell the rebuilt laptops. So we need to decide which option we're going to go with. So we look at the three different options. We have incremental revenue, incremental costs, and incremental income. So the 325,000 original manufacturing cost is a sunk cost. So we don't even think about that cost. We're only looking at the costs that change based on our decisions. So we can sell to the TV network, sell to schools, or we can rebuild the computers at an incremental cost of $190,000. We can see that rebuilding the computers gives us the most incremental income from our three options. We won't be able to fully recover the $325,000 we've already invested in these laptops. We already saw that rebuilding the computers is the most profitable course of action. However, we might have other opportunity costs. So, one, if we take the time to rebuild these laptops, we're taking people off our production floor who could be working on other things. So what production are we slowing down by taking the time to rework these obsolete computers? If we sell to the computer, to the TV network, or to the school, do we have potential to create new customers there? Is there some kind of a long-term relationship that we can build with those two places? And the last cost that short-term decision that we talk about in this chapter is joint product decisions. So under joint product decisions, we have companies that produce multiple products from a common raw material, and they share a production process. Some examples are oil refineries, lumber and steel mills, meat processing companies. So if we look at lumber processing, regardless of what that lumber, what those trees become, what kind of lumber products we make, the process for processing trees is the same across all products. So first we cut down the trees, we have to run them through, take the bark off. So those products that result are called joint products. And any costs that are part of that joint process are called joint costs. When we then get to the part in the process where trees can become multiple different kinds of lumber, or a meat processing company can become multiple types of meat, we have to decide how we're going to allocate those joint costs from the joint production process to the individual products. So how do we allocate joint costs among the various products? And how do we decide whether we should process products further or sell them at what is called the split off point? So we have a company that mixes together wood chips and pine oil. After joint manufacturing costs of $2,000 have been incurred, we have two products that can be sold. We have granulated charcoal and methyl alcohol. So how should we allocate these $2,000 in joint costs? Of course, there's no right way to do it. There are common methods. So we have several common methods that we can use, and it's based on the relative sales value of the product produced. So when we're looking at these, we have joint costs of $2,000, and one has a sales value of $5,000, so the charcoal, and the alcohol has a sales value of $9,000. Thus, collectively, we have a sales value of $14,000. What we would do then is figure out the percentage of sales value for each product by taking their sales value divided by the total sales value of both products combined. We then allocate those joint costs based on the percentage. At that split off point, we need to decide if we're going to sell those products independently or if we're going to process them further. So we can sell charcoal and alcohol at the split off point without further processing, or we can further process and make air filters and cleaning salts. So we have this pine oil and wood chips. We have the joint mixing process, And then we have the split off point. At the split off point, we can sell alcohol with a sales value of 9,000 or charcoal with a sales value of 5,000. We can also further process those for additional costs and then sell them as different products. So the methyl alcohol can be turned into cleaning solvent if we spend an additional $7,000 in processing. And the charcoal can be sold as air filters with an additional $6,000 in processing. So when we look at this incremental analysis of their after split off, so if we make air filters, we get $15,000 from the charcoal. It less our revenue that we sell at the sold off point of 5,000. Therefore, we have incremental revenue from the air filters. We had incremental cost to produce the air filter. So we have a $4,000 increase in operating income if we further process the charcoal to become air filters. However, the alcohol to make the cleaning product, the incremental cost to produce the cleaning solvent is less than the incremental revenue from that solvent. So we're better off processing the charcoal further, but selling the alcohol at the split off point. So we looked at a variety of decisions. We had special order decisions, production constraints, make or buy decisions, sell, scrap, or rebuild, and joint product processing. We look at the financial costs. What are those incremental costs and revenue, or what are the relevant costs? What are our opportunity costs, our out-of-pocket costs, and our sunk costs? And then what are the non-financial? Do we have reputation benefits? Are there environmental impacts? Are there ethical considerations? And other variety of things that we have to think about. Opportunity costs can also be non-financial costs. So the different factors that we have to make when we're making these types of decisions. That is the end of chapter 21.